This is the KeyLab MK3 88, Arturia's flagship keyboard controller that lets you sculpt sounds with virtual instruments, play drums, sequence beats, and mix songs with the most popular DAWs. Let's take a look at all the features, the competition, and what makes the KeyLab MK3 88 stand out. The KeyLab MK3 comes in 3 sizes now, with 88 keys, 61 keys, or 49 keys. This is the premium controller from Arturia, so it sits above the KeyLab Essential and the MiniLab in their MIDI controller lineup. And it comes in black or white. If you're considering this keyboard, you may also be looking at the Native Instruments S88 or the M Audio Hammer 88 Pro, so I'll be highlighting some key differences in this video. And if you're interested in getting the KeyLab MK3 88 or any of the other keyboards I talk about, I'll put links below the video. All right, before we continue, I want to quickly talk about the mic I'm using for this video. This one is super unique with some crazy features. This right here is the Sennheiser Profile Wireless System. It's a completely wireless microphone setup that's designed for creators, podcasters, and musicians who want high quality audio without being tied down by cables. So here's what makes it so unique. The whole setup fits into this bar. The receiver, the transmitter mics, you can charge it from here, and get this, you can use this whole bar as a full microphone itself. It's completely plug and play, no complicated setup, no menus to scroll through, just power it on, connect it, and you're ready to record. These are true professional grade mics on these transmitters as well. It works with USB-C. This means you can connect it directly to your computer, phone, or tablet. Honestly, for a wireless system that sounds this good and is so super convenient to carry around, I'd really recommend this. So if you're looking to upgrade your audio setup with studio quality sound, check out the Sennheiser Profile Wireless. I'll add a link below the video if you want to learn more. All right, let's get back to the KeyLab MK3 88. So I want to talk about the keyboard on the KeyLab MK3 88, but first, this is a keyboard controller that you use with a computer to play software-based virtual instruments, control your DAW, and you can also use this to control some hardware synths. It does not have built-in sounds. If you want that, you might want to look at the Astrolab by Arturia. Now here's the big difference with the 88 key version. This is a fully weighted hammer action keybed with aftertouch. This is a huge upgrade from the synth action keyboards on the smaller 49 and 61 key versions. If you're a pianist, this will feel much closer to an acoustic piano, while still giving you that keyboard controller functionality. Now, we still don't have polyphonic aftertouch like the Native Instruments S88, so applying aftertouch on one key on the KeyLab will affect all pressed keys. If you're looking for poly aftertouch, you'll need to look at other options. But for a weighted keybed with aftertouch, this is a solid choice. The feel of the keys is great, the weight, the press, the bounce back, all very comfortable. If you've played on Arturia's weighted keybeds before, this will feel better actually. I feel like it's less weighty. I think this is more natural to me. And it's a step up from the keyboard on Arturia's less expensive KeyLab Essential, of course. Compared to the Native Instruments S88, this keybed feels pretty close actually. And that's a big change to Arturia's previous hammer action keybed, which was a lot heavier. If you're comparing it to the M Audio Hammer 88 Pro, this feels on par as well. There is a notable sound when you play. It sounds kind of like a hollow thud. Listen. Now, once you start playing for a while, you won't notice it, but just letting you know. Now, Arturia has a couple cool features that you don't usually find on MIDI controllers. These stands. It comes with an integrated sheet music stand, and check this out, this laptop stand, which is so convenient. So many of you commented on this laptop stand when I reviewed the previous version of the KeyLab, and it's back. You won't get these on the 49 or 61 key versions of this keyboard. It's only on the 88 key. These stands are really nice and really sturdy. I love this laptop stand. Okay, so the pads. I don't know how much they've changed, but I kind of like the sensitivity on these new pads. They feel better than the pads on previous Arturia keyboards. The pads are velocity and pressure sensitive, and if you like finger drumming, you'll like these. There are 4 pad banks, more than we've seen on previous models of Arturia keyboards. But Arturia gave us more pads, 16 on the previous model of the KeyLab. But those pads were smaller and didn't feel as good as these. Between more pads and better feel, which would you choose? Comment below. These pads have some additional functions like triggering clips in Ableton Live and sequencing beats in FL Studio. Yeah, you heard that right. I really want to show you this new feature for FL. Arturia lets you also save user programs to fully customize the way all these controls work. More on that later. All right, I'm going to give you a full tour of all the features, but let's briefly talk about the price. The KeyLab 88 Mark III retails for $1,000, quite a bit more than the 61 key version. You're really paying for the extra keys and the key feel. It is $300 cheaper than the Native Instruments S88, and remember, you get faders on this keyboard, so that's a nice bonus. If you're really looking to save as much money as possible, check out the M Audio Hammer 88 Pro. You get a lot of standard features for DAW control, hammer action keys, but you'll be missing some of the tight software integration that Arturia gives you. I'll get into that next. The KeyLab Mark III's layout is very similar to the previous Mark II's, which has its pros and cons. First, the good stuff. The transport controls are very easy to reach and close to the keyboard, which means you're not reaching far for just play, stop, record, things like that. Above that, you've got additional DAW controls and the chord, scale, and ARP buttons. In the center, you've got the brand new color screen with 8 contextual buttons. These change depending on what you're doing. And you have your main encoder for browsing sounds, navigating settings, and a convenient back button. On the right, you've got 9 encoders and faders to control virtual instrument parameters or 8 tracks in your DAW. The 9th encoder and fader controls the active track in your DAW, which is nice if, like me, you forget which fader and knob correspond to which track. Over on the left, we have 12 pads along with pad bank buttons, settings, a program button to switch between modes, and MIDI channel. We've also got octave up and down and transpose buttons, and of course the pitch and mod wheels. The layout is very clean, very intuitive. I do wish they put the faders on the left side of the keyboard though. I prefer being able to reach with my left hand while I play with my right. Arturia has ditched the extra buttons faders that were on the previous version of the KeyLab. Those buttons were used for track selection or quick filtering of presets in Analog Lab. The screen on the KeyLab Mark III is certainly a step up from the screen on the previous KeyLab Mark II. It's nice, but I kind of wish they had done more. Let me cover the good stuff first. The screen is large, bright, very easy to read with large text and full color. When you have an Arturia instrument loaded, you can see a little icon of the instrument on the screen. The icon is nice, but no, you can't go in and touch the screen and modify those parameters. When you move an encoder or a fader, what you're controlling pops up on the big screen, so it's easy to know what you're doing. Now, this is one of the most nicest and useful screens on a MIDI controller. Most controllers have those tiny digital screens that are much harder to read, and it's an upgrade from Arturia's own Essential keyboard recently released. However, given that this is a major part of the user interface on this keyboard, I have to say I think Arturia kind of played it safe. Let me explain. We've seen Arturia give us some innovative interfaces, the Microfreak, Polybrute, even some pushing boundaries like the circular interface on the Astrolab. But they didn't really innovate on this new KeyLab, and this is their flagship controller. I expected them to take a step further, and here's why. Arturia is the king of virtual synths, and gives us customized controls on their keyboard. So why not give us more information under these controls like Novation did on their SL, or even Korg did with their recent keyboard? Arturia should have been the one to innovate first, since their competitive edge is their tight software-hardware integration. Also, the screen is missing feedback from the mixer. You won't see your track volume levels while your track is playing like Native Instruments shows on their S-Series keyboards. So Native Instruments released their S-Series recently, and they gave us a bigger screen on that, and they placed their buttons and encoders above and below the screen, which means you know exactly what to press and move to adjust parameters. And this works on Arturia synths since they are NKS compatible as well. On the KeyLab MK3, you'll need to glance back to your computer screen to see the controls you have, or touch a knob or fader to know exactly what you're changing. All right, let's talk more about virtual instrument integration next. And hey, if this video has been helpful or informative, can you take 5 seconds to hit the subscribe button? It's totally free, and it would mean the world to me because it makes a huge difference in the content and value I bring to you. Now, you can't talk about an Arturia keyboard without showing off the integration with Arturia's own software instruments and analog lab. This is what sets all Arturia keyboards apart. You see, Arturia has built a tactile interface to their software instruments right into all of their keyboards. And this is unique. No other company does this except for Native Instruments. And if you love synths, an Arturia controller like the KeyLab MK3 is going to take things to a new level. The KeyLab comes with Analog Lab, which is software Arturia makes. It's like a window into Arturia's virtual instrument world. You've got everything from vintage synthesizers to acoustic pianos to strings and so much more. And you can load up some beautiful presets and have so much fun morphing the sounds, tweaking parameters, all without looking at your computer screen. And the brand new screen on the KeyLab MK3 really makes this process enjoyable. Load Analog Lab in any track in your DAW, or you can even run it standalone, and you can browse sounds, filter by types, instruments, genres, and more. Once you've loaded a sound, you have instant access to modify the most interesting parameters. Arturia has mapped these controls to all these different sounds, and you'll see them change depending on what you've loaded. The screen shows the instrument you've loaded, and you can quickly favorite a preset or navigate to the previous or next one. You can even split the keyboard and load another preset right from the screen. Okay, DAW integration is vital. Let's get into that next. But hey, if you're making music at home, do you know how easy it is to get your music out there to the world? You can do it yourself with DistroKid, the sponsor of today's video. DistroKid lets you upload your music to Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Pandora, Amazon, pretty much everywhere. Best of all, they make it really easy. Just upload your track, add some artwork, and they do the rest. DistroKid also collects earnings for you when your listeners play or purchase your music, and they help you market your music with tools built right in. A hyperfollow page lets you share your latest music with your friends on Facebook or anywhere you can share a link, and they can easily follow you to get notified of your upcoming releases. I've actually created 2 dedicated videos on DistroKid to give you all the details. You can watch those videos right here. And if you're ready to sign up, I'll include a link in the video description that'll give you 7% off your first year of membership. So DAW integration. The KeyLab MK3 gives you some control of your mixer, plugins, and even some sequencing features for FL Studio. I'll give you some details for Ableton Live, FL, Logic, and Cubase. If you want to use another DAW, you get basic controls for transport and stuff like that. The KeyLab MK3 integrates well with Ableton Live, giving you mixer controls, and clip and scene triggering. You can navigate around the session with the encoder, and you can trigger scenes by clicking these buttons here and then pressing the play button near the screen. There's lots more you can do with Ableton, including controlling Ableton plugins or devices. Select the device mode from the screen, and you can use the encoders and faders to modify your device's parameters. The screen shows you the parameter you're adjusting and the value, which is really, really nice. When you're in mixer mode, you'll see the track names as you scroll through, and you can use the faders and encoders to adjust track volumes, pans, and the 9th fader and encoder adjust your current track. Faders are really nice to have on a keyboard because you can adjust multiple track volumes with one hand. You also have a quick button to mute, solo, and arm the active track. All right, let's explore FL Studio's integration for a moment because they've done something really useful here. Channel rack control. But first, the basics. In FL Studio, the KeyLab will control the transport, stop, play, record, tap tempo, quantize, and even save and undo. The main encoder navigates the channels. Clicking in will open a plugin. As for the first 8 faders and encoders here, they can either control the plugin you're using or mixer, volume, and pans. The 9th encoder and fader controls the selected track's volume and pan. The pads control the steps in the sequencer. Open a new FL Studio session, click on Channel Rack in FL, and the pads on the first 2 rows correspond to the first 8 steps on the sequencer. The 3rd row of pads navigate pages so you can access all 32 of the steps. The previous and next buttons above the screen let you navigate the patterns. Now, of course, you can use the pads to trigger drums as well. So how about Logic Pro? Well, you can control the transport, of course, play, stop, record, things like that. And you also have the quantize and undo functions as well. And just like with other DAWs, the 8 encoders and faders either control plugin parameters or mixer volumes and pans. And you also have mute, solo, and arm for each track. The 9th also controls the selected track. You can switch between plugin and mixer modes with the buttons near the screen. Pads don't do anything special in Logic aside from triggering sounds on drums. For Cubase users, you'll pretty much get the same features as I showed you for a Logic Pro. Plus, the pads will also let you show or hide different zones and settings, navigate pages, and even add tracks. So a few more shortcuts for Cubase people. All right, nearly every popular keyboard controller these days comes with chord, scale, and arpeggiator features, and Arturia has added those on the KeyLab MK3 88. With the chord feature, you can choose from preset chords. Note that you're choosing a chord that will transpose on each key that you press. The scale feature is useful if you're new to music theory. Just set a scale and you'll always be in key. And of course, you've got an arpeggiator here with lots of different ways to shape your arp. So these chord, arp, and scale features really get the KeyLab MK3 on par with other keyboards available right now. But again, I don't think Arturia did anything truly innovative here. It's similar to what others offer in these areas. Now, these features are kind of useful when you connect your KeyLab Mark III to a hardware synth, and since they are built right into the keyboard, you don't need to have a computer connected to do something like generating ARPs. Now, Arturia also gives you lots of customization options using the user program feature. You can customize the velocity, aftertouch, wheels, pedals, encoders, faders, so much. This could be useful if you want to create a certain setting for a specific virtual instrument, or if something doesn't map automatically. Or you could really do anything you want with these. All right, so let's talk about the build quality and connectivity. Everything is super solid. The knobs have a lot of resistance, more than other MIDI controllers I've tested, but if you've tried Arturia Gear before, it feels about the same. The faders feel good as well, nice resistance. The buttons are plastic with a little bit of travel. There is an audible click, but not as loud as other cheaper keyboards. The body is super sturdy with a heavy bass, and this is real beechwood on the sides, which is a nice premium touch and very Arturia-like. On the back, you've got a USB-C connector. It's USB powered, and you also have an optional power port if you want to use external power. It does not come with the power adapter. There are also MIDI ins and outs, sustain, expression, and aux in ports. Over on the side, you've also got a power switch, which is nice. Note that the previous model of the KeyLab actually had more connectivity, including CV connections and more aux inputs. Now we're looking at the 88 key version here, so you know you're getting a big keyboard. Keep that in mind. It's obviously heavier than the 49 and 61 key versions. So if you're thinking of transporting this thing, keep the weight in mind. The KeyLab Mark III comes with some software to get you started, including Analog Lab Pro, which I showed you before. This is the Pro version, which is a $200 piece of software, and I'm really glad they included it. You also get the Mini V, Piano V, Augmented Strings, and RevPlate 140 software titles, all free with this keyboard. You also get an extra piano from Native Instruments, the Gentleman, and Ableton Live Lite to get you started recording at home. There's also a Melodics and Loop Cloud starter subscription included as well. It's a good software package and enough to have you making music right away, and especially taking advantage of KeyLab's integration with Arturia software. Of course, this will be just the beginning of your step into the Arturia ecosystem. They make great virtual instruments and effects, so you'll be tempted to buy and add things to your collection all the time. Okay, so when comparing this to other 88 key hammer action MIDI controllers out there, I think Arturia has given us a good keyboard. Yeah, there are a few things missing, but hey, there's no perfect keyboard out there. You'll get a better screen on the S88 by Native Instruments, but you'll lose the faders and the drum pads that the KeyLab has. Native Instruments never puts drum pads on their keyboards, so if that's important to you, you've got them here. You will save some money getting the Hammer 88 Pro from M Audio, but you'll lose out on the software instrument integration that Arturia does so well. There's a lot to consider when choosing a MIDI controller for your studio, and I've simplified the process in my Ultimate Studio Buyer's Guide. You can get it using the link below. Everything from audio interfaces to studio monitors and keyboards. So some final thoughts. If you're in the market for a keyboard with outstanding virtual instrument integration, it's hard to beat the KeyLab. And if that virtual instrument interaction is something you really want, you will get more physical hands-on controls on the KeyLab than you do with the Native Instruments keyboards. Arturia also has a good reputation for supporting their gear and even adding and improving features with firmware updates. I think this keyboard is a good investment. Could Arturia have given us something more, something new, something we haven't seen before? Yes, and I kind of wish they did. I guess we'll have to see what they have in store for the KeyLab Mark IV. If you have any questions about the KeyLab, leave them in the comments below. If you're interested in checking out any of the keyboards I talked about in this video, I've added links below. And hey, if you're looking for my latest keyboard review, watch the video right here. Keep making the music you love, and I'll see you soon.